Hello, and welcome to the Write Club podcast, where we take you behind the pages and into the fascinating world of writing. I'm Mary, and this is Beth, and we're part of the team at Writing Magazine and Writers Online. Hi, Beth, how are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm really good today, thanks. Let me get straight on to introducing our brilliant guest this week. Melanie Blake is an English author, columnist, and talent agent. Blake began her career working as a camera assistant on Top of the Pops and eventually formed her own music agency. After representing music stars, she formed an acting and PR agency, which primarily represented soap actresses from British and American soap operas.
Yes, and in 2018, Blake made the decision to lessen her client list to focus on her writing career. She has since released three best-selling novels, The Thunder Girls, Ruthless Women, and Guilty Women, all of which were inspired by her experiences in both the music and soap industries. The final installment of the Ruthless trilogy, Vengeful Women, is out now, and we've had the pleasure of reading it.
Yeah, and it was an absolute pleasure. But before we chat about the incredible trilogy, let's just welcome Melanie to the podcast. So welcome, Melanie.
Hello, ladies. Thank you for having me on.
We're so happy to have you on the podcast with us today. And where is it that you're joining us from today with your cuppa and your Kit Kat?
Oh, you've revealed my secrets. You're ruining my brand. So, obviously, I am marketed as well. I'm not sure, I should be worried about this for for my grave, because literally I'm now the last queen of the Bonkbuster standing, which is basically a very glamorous title. So obviously now we've lost the fabulous Dame Jilly. And before that it was Jackie. So when Jackie passed, I was deemed Jackie Collins for a new generation. And now Jilly has passed. I'm officially the queen of the Bonkbuster. Literally, that is my title. There is only me. So I'm like, I hope that doesn't mean I'm next. So with that comes, I'll get to the cup of tea. With that comes the very glamorous image of, big shoots in hotels. And so, and I have to say, I do love that aspect of it. It is certainly, it's what I kind of dreamt about when I was young, when I was reading those books. And, you know, t- I, I kind of did think that I would do it, but that's the story we'll have to get into later. But when I'm actually just being Mel and not Melanie Blake, which is who you're talking to today, I am sat on the sofa with a cup of tea and a Kit Kat.
What more could you want?
Exactly. Two Kit Kats.
Yeah.
Good point.
How does it feel to be compared to Jilly Cooper and Jackie Collins?
Jackie Collins, I could understand it because I really didn't use her, but I really referenced her massively in in when I arrived. Even with the Thunder Girls back in 2018, which is nothing to do with the trilogy. So the trilogy is global. Um, Ruthless Women, Guilty Women, Vengeful isn't out of this country yet, but it started to sell internationally. They are global hits. I mean, it blew everybody away. So Ruthless is in 11 languages now. And so combined, those first three books have sold 1 million copies in languages I don't speak. So, which basically was along the lines of the Jackie Collins heritage because of the fact that she had passed. And they basically wanted a new one. And I was actually told, um, if we're being completely honest on this podcast and just really keeping it real, because I really do like to sort of get behind the mythology of what I promote and who I am versus like what I really am like and what I'm actually doing. My books are absolutely completely authentic to me. Like they come from my soul. The image is very much manufactured and marketed. And it actually happened from when I was doing the press for the Thunder Girls, which was So a long time ago now, and the Thunder Girls does not have a single sex scene in it. It's about a girl group that reunite after 30 years. And of course, you mentioned that I worked in music industry for a long time. I reunited bands. I worked with the Spice Girls. I spent days with Cher, Madonna, Tina Turner, Destiny's Child, Beyonce. I mean, literally the biggest stars in the world. I literally have spent 2, 3 days with, like, one to one. So I know what goes on. ABBA, I mean, really, the tales were there. So the point was, it was all about the fact that I realized that all bands that reunited hated each other, and that is the nub of the story of the Thunder Girls. Um, so therefore, there was no reason to write any sex in it because really all they're doing is slapping each other around, basically, for the whole thing. It is a fantastic book, but so there was no reason. But when I was doing the interviews, and if anyone looks online, like I am naturally quite glamorous. I like that sort of look. All the journalists kept saying, this book's great, but you should write a Bonkbuster. And I said, well, nobody writes Bonkbusters anymore because, Jackie's died. And they said, well, that's exactly the point. With the way that you sound, and anyone that's listening to this will hear my famously raspy voice, and the way that you look. They were like, put those two things together and write a Bonkbuster, and you'll have a massive hit. And I just completely ignored it. Just put it to one side, and then because the Thunder Girls was doing well, the Thunder Girls I wrote when I was 19. So, because I'd always wanted to be a writer, and if you go to my social media page and Twitter, if you go to my X page, there's a posted tweet at the top. I don't know if you've seen it, and it says it's when Ruthless Women was basically the Sunday Times bestseller, right next to like Richard Osman, like, and it's like huge, and it said, here's to my English teacher that said the only writing that I would ever do would be on the labeling of boxes in the factory that I would be working in. I mean, one, like, how rude is that? And two, like, what need was there to say that? Three, uh, you were wrong. And like, not just
Yeah.
wrong, majorly wrong. And weirdly, the other day, I was in the factory, that famous factory that's near in Norwich, where everyone has to go to sign their books. Like, oh, no, where anyway, it's in the middle of nowhere. But anyone who's anywhere, Dan Brown, like literally Linda LaPlante, all the names, they're all over the wall. And I was up there. I've never been anywhere like that before because I've never done a big stock signing because we did special editions of Vengeful Women, and they are special. And so I had to sign 5,000 copies in one day. And I went to this place to see it. And there was a whole team around me that's job was to box up and label. And it just was like full circle in my head. I was like, wow, this is really bizarre. This is really like that dream that you dream coming true. Even though I've had all that other success, even though I've had all those other things, it was that little moment of seeing the boxes being packed, and that actually they're being packed with my books, my international best-selling books, and that I wasn't sticking the labels on. So I hope you're listening, if you're still alive out there, whoever it was. In fact, actually, I do know your name. I'm just not going to say it.
Hopefully, he's not a teacher anymore.
Well, and I would just hope that if she is, that they've changed because I'm not old. Like literally, like I left school um in 1993. Like
Oh,
that is not a long time ago.
no.
And so, they were still doing that. So that that they were speaking to you like that. So I was told in maths that I was completely thick and I couldn't learn maths. So I got a G. And then you mentioned my talent agency earlier. I set up my own talent agency from scratch and turned over 40 million
Wow.
and did the VAT returns myself. And it was actually the actress Claire King, who plays Kim Tate in Emmerdale, who taught me how to do the VAT on the back of a beer mat. It took
Wow.
5 minutes. It took 5 minutes. They just couldn't be bothered to teach me anything. because I had dyslexia, and they just they just labeled you thick. But so to go full circle, basically the Thunder Girls was released, was sold to Pan Macmillan, and it was meant to go out as a hardback because it was my debut book, and we knew there was a massive audience for it. So even though I'd written it at 19, it wasn't released until I was 30. No, I think I was 40, 41 by the time it was released. Because we did actually originally lie about my age to knock it back to 40. But then we realized, because I've had quite a colourful life, dated a few famous people, that we had to actually correct it. Otherwise, it made some people criminals that weren't, which is actually true. There's a true story. So I think I must have been 42. And I'd said I was 40, but it wasn't because I wanted to pretend to be 40. It's just that it was a good story to go first time published at 40. And 2 years didn't seem important, but actually 2 years was very important to to an international rock star, Michael Hutchins from NXS, that I was dating for a year, because it changed my age to an age that was not appropriate. So basically, that book was basically the worst experience of my entire publishing career. It was horrendous. So when I signed the deal with Pan Macmillan, it was because really I had then been around the industry for such a long time. I wasn't famous, I wasn't in the public eye, but everybody knew me as being the biggest showbiz agent in this country. So I was a presence, but not to the public eye. But that means that the industry sort of go, okay, she's authentic. So if what she's writing about is obviously something that she knows what she's doing. So you've got more likely a chance that you'll be read. And that's very much the same as, for example, if you're an ex-priest or an ex-police person or whatever, like they know you know. So they're probably going to read it. Whereas if somebody who's never written anything ever and has just had normal jobs writes a horror story set in a nunnery, they're probably not going to read it because they don't have that experience. So that was key. But basically it was also going to be a play, because I adapted one of the chapters, because basically the whole book is all about the reunion dinner. Anyone that wants to read that book, the point of it is that all bands um, that have split up do hate each other, don't speak to each other, and haven't seen each other for decades. That is fact. I have seen it. Oh my God, I was there for the Bros reunion. Let me tell you, that was absolutely horrific. I've seen it all of them, doesn't matter. And even if they're related, they hate each other, right? Something has happened, they hate each other. But the tagline for that book was, they were the best of friends until fame and greed and money tore them apart. 30 years later, for the right price, can lightning strike twice? Which was basically about the fact that I learned this from all the bands, because I got to know so many famous people who I ended up, some of them managing, some of them my friends. I mean, I don't want to name drop because it sounds, really weird, but I mean really famous people, like really massive superstars. I am going to name drop just to give you a reference. Like at one point I did know Whitney, Britney, Cher, like Madonna, like to actually speak to, because I would see them every Thursday at Top of the Pops. And in those days, literally, they used to come in every week, and there was no security, and there was nothing. There was nothing like today. There was no social media. There's no mobile phones, so everybody had access to everyone. It was a completely different world. You would spend an hour in the corridor chatting to Cher and Whitney. I mean, it's in my autobiography, all of this. It's a time that wouldn't exist. But I did learn about the fact that it was true. But what I also learned from all the managers was that in order to do that tour, that's going to be the big money maker, the reunion tour, they have to have a dinner, where they all sit around together to see whether they can bury the hatchet and can they patch up the wounds enough to get through 3 months together. And I've got a really good reference point of we don't have the details, but this is absolutely true. Do you remember when the Spice Girls reformed just a few years ago?
Yep.
Yeah.
They did a picture of all of them, including Posh Spice, at the dinner party. And then when the tickets went on sale, she was not on the tour. So
Ah,
something happened at that dinner party that made her go, no, I'm not doing this again. And that is the point of the dinner party. That's so the play was an enormous success. Unfortunately, it was just before COVID. It broke every box office record for a new work at the Lowry in Manchester, and it was going to tour all over the UK. In fact, I've actually got an exclusive for you. I have just signed the Hollywood movie rights to that book, and I have turned down several movie right deals for that book because they've always wanted to make the women younger, and I refuse. And I finally got a huge studio, and that book is coming to screens, cinemas, downloads very, very soon. And it is the reunion dinner that they're filming, which is basically what we did for the play. But the reference to about the publishing was that I was really excited about it, and I'd written the book, and and it was, it was obviously 20 years old, so we had a rewrite of it to bring it up to date because obviously social media didn't exist, and there was all these different references, and it was there's not many things that I'm good at, but my books, I'm really good at them because I only write about what I know. I know my books inside out. If it's every phrase, a lot of people who read my stuff love the fact that they go, if it wasn't for the fact of who she is and who she's worked with and what shows she's done, and the fact that for 20 years I represented about 75% of the women that you see on your screens in soap operas, that they know that I know what it's like and the way these people speak in my books and how horrible they are and the terrible things they do and the backstabbing and the bonking and the horrificness. The only thing that's not true in my books is like the murders. Like
Yeah.
other than that, it's so realistic. But basically at Pan Macmillan, just as it was about to go out, there was a changeover of managers, and anyone that wants to be an author or sign to a big company should be really aware that it's really important who your editor is, because if you're chosen by one editor and that editor leaves and you get passed on to another editor, they may not want you, and suddenly you go from being like, really important to something that they don't want. And this editor that got me inherited um, downgraded my book from hardback to paperback. And I was like, I don't understand this. I've signed for, because obviously it was my debut novel. And so that's a big deal. And there was a huge press campaign for it. It was massive. There was TV adverts, there were celebrities because we had the play happening at the same time. So everybody knew it was going to sell. And this publishing director, who's not there anymore, said to me, somebody like you, and they meant working class, will never sell in hardback. Literally to my face.
Wow.
And I was just like, what? And they were like, yeah. So we're going to put you out in paperback because it's cheap to print, and then whatever happens, happens. It was so rude and insulting, and it was horrific. And then not only did they do that, they then ripped the book apart and put 8 editors on it and just kept messing about with it. And I just felt so out of control. It was absolutely awful. And in the end, I basically just gave up and let them have their way. So the first half of that book is, if you look on any of the reviews, it's 1 star or 5 stars. And everybody always says, Oh my God, the first half is so slow. If you can get past the first half, you will not put this book down. And that was them. So
Uh,
basically, I write at a million miles an hour. You ladies have read the trilogy, right? You've read the books,
Yeah.
right? There are no books like mine, are they? They
No,
never, they
no.
never, they never stop.
You can hear your voice in those books so clearly. It's yeah, like you say, they are very unique books. I've never read anything like them before. So
And
yeah.
that's because those voices are in my head and those
Yeah.
characters are real. And I I literally said, look, this is what it's like. This is how every day is. Every day is like a year in a day. Like
Mm,
so much goes on, like all day long, that the pace is really fast, the drama is really fast. I said, and my readers want to go, even though I'd written national newspaper columns and I'd written like for lots of magazines and I'd written for all glossies and stuff, I always noticed that they liked my pace, that
mm,
I was fast, and they liked the fact that I could I could pack a lot in. And obviously you can hear that I talk a lot. So I talk like I write. And they just had this obsession with the fact that you had to build up to a story. And I just didn't agree, but it was what it was. But I was proved right because all the reviews and all the things said, if you get to the middle way, you won't be able to put this down. And that was a direct, clear finger point at them in their face at what they'd done. And I was able to go, see what you've done, see what you've done. That's you they're talking about. That's you, where you've slowed it down to like for no reason. And then to add insult to injury, they released me on July the 16th or 18th, I think, which is like the premium release date of paperbacks that have been hardback bestsellers, which means there's millions of people that have been waiting for that paperback, whereas I'm coming out brand new against that. So I charted at number 44 on the chart and I sold 10,000 copies in 2 days. And the Sunday Times hardback bestseller that week sold 6,000.
oh, wow.
So had I have been released in hardback
mm,
as I was supposed to be, without that book being messed about with, we would still be doing this now, but my career would have gone in a completely different direction because I would have been a debut Sunday Times best-selling number one author, which I didn't get. I had that robbed from me by um, you know, publishers with bad attitudes, which I have found pretty much across the board towards working class authors.
Yeah, we've had quite a few discussions like that, haven't we, on the podcast? But I can say that this book, Vengeful Women, has got an absolutely beautiful hardback cover. It's
Oh,
really
it's
stunning.
stunning.
No, Beth loves a collector's book, so she was very excited about it. But could you tell us a little bit about Vengeful Women for people who...
Yeah, well, actually, let's just start there with the book. So, like, when I wrote uh, Ruthless Women, which was turned down by 39 publishers, because once you argue with a publisher and you leave a publisher, the publishers spread it around. This is not libel, this is fact, because it's not actually a specific statement. They just spread it around, just like they do in Hollywood, just like they do with women in movies, just like they do with women anywhere. She's difficult. Like
Yeah,
it's literally that's what they do to all women. Like literally, like they don't do it to men, they only do it to women. A man stands up for himself, he's powerful. He's controlling, strong, he's respected. A woman stands up for herself. She's difficult.
yeah,
She's not. She's a nightmare. That she's unworkable with. And that I'm not saying they blackened my name, but my name was blackened because nobody wanted that book. And basically, it, to cut a long story short, I went through the list of rejections on that book. This does lead us to the to Vengeful Women and the cover that you mentioned, but we have to go to Ruthless first, otherwise there wouldn't be a trilogy. You get a list of rejections from your agent, basically, and a list of letters. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's wonderful. You've got great voice, but it's just not for us. Blah blah blah. Um, and I read through all 39 of them. And I looked at all of the websites, Bloomsbury, Hachette, whatever, and I couldn't find a link to sort of think, okay, well, I can sort of find an argument as to why I should be there. I think I should be there, but I can't find an actual link until I found Head of Zeus, which was an independent publishing house, which had been around for a long time, but had always been on the sort of fringes and had never had a bestseller. And their actual mission statement was that they'd been inspired by the Greek mythological goddesses. And I thought, because my books are literally, you've read them, these are kick-ass women who will take you down. And they literally will face the wrath of God and take down Athena themselves. So this is a great story, actually. And Laura, that I actually did the story with, is actually working with me now. So she's Head of Zeus doesn't exist anymore, so she would let me tell the story. I rang the lady's name that was on the bottom of my rejection letter, um, and it was a lovely lady called Laura Palmer, who is now freelance and basically um so luckily edited this book. I was so glad to have her back. And I rang her up and I said, "Hi, this is Melanie Blake." And she just didn't sort of react. And I said, "You don't know who I am, do you?" And she went, I said, "Well, I've got a letter from you here saying that you basically loved my book, but it's not right for you. Um, what's the title of it?" And she just said, I said, "You didn't read it, did you?" And there was a big pause. And because clearly no one had ever done this before. And she went, "I'm going to be honest, no, I didn't read it. I literally I looked at the precis of what it was, and I just thought, this is not what we do." And I said, "Listen, I want to say thank you very much for your honesty. And now I would like to be honest with you. And don't take this in the wrong way. You've never had a massive hit." Because I'm not frightened to say what I think, right? And this would never have happened. We would not be on this call now if this had not happened, because the Thunder Girls just disappeared after what happened. Because this was 5 years later. And I said, "You have never had a bestseller. You have never had an international hit, and you've never had a Sunday Times bestseller. This is your book." And she went, "Well, that's your opinion." I was like, "No," I was really bullshit. I went, "No, that is the truth. I've read your website." She was like one of the co-formers of the company, so they all had the same ideas about what this company was. "I've read the website. I know you're busy. You just haven't read it. You haven't read it because if you read this book, you're going to want it. And if you sign it, it's going to change everything for you because you'll have a bestseller." And she said to me, "Okay, I'll tell you what, Melanie Blake," she said, using my full name. She said, "I'm going to read this book tonight. And with respect, I hope that I ring you tomorrow and tell you that I was right not to read it because it isn't for us. So we'll speak tomorrow." And she rang me in the morning. She said, "Right, we have a deal ready for you."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because literally, because I was right. And oh my God, what an amazing experience. I mean, if you're going to choose a publisher, if you get a choice to be published, go to an indie, go to an independent. It was everything I dreamed of. It was everything that I dreamed of being an author. A wonderful team, amazing supporting editors, fabulous collaborative, like art teams, like it was just heaven. It was just a dream. And of course, then for it to be released in hardback, glossy, beautiful, expensive, and for it to be such an enormous, ginormous success. And it changed everything for them, and it changed everything for me, because basically within 6 months or so, they were bought out. And that's what happens because the big five don't want independent publishers in the top 10. So that's why all those indies become imprints, because they don't like the power being shared. So it's all very Machiavellian, like my books. And then I was poached by HarperCollins, um, under the guise of, we've got loads of money to spend. We've seen this, that you've brought back the genre, and we think we can take you to the whole world. And Head of Zeus is still quite a small company. They really wanted to keep me, but they said, look, we can't compete with that. So with sadness, I did actually go, and it was the worst experience of my life. It was literally the worst experience ever. It was terrible. It was an enormous building, uh, absolutely stunning to walk in, full of history. I think the imprint is like 200 years old or something. Oh, sorry, their print, then their title is like 200 years old. You'd have to Google it, but it's old. It's very old because they have like all their original books in like these glass cases and stuff, and they're almost like parchment. And so it's very, very overwhelming, which is nothing like an indie. Like, so you get this sort of glamorous experience, a bit like Devil Wears Prada in a way. And then there's tons of people and tons of people that you're assigned to literally work on your book, and nobody does anything. Literally, you're just part of this massive system, and they 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 just didn't get it, and there was no attention to detail. And I've said all of this. I've said all of this in public, online, and in forums. It's not libelous. It's all completely factually true. It's my opinion of my experience. Um, and basically, I knew that I was in serious trouble when the cover was presented to me. And any women that are listening to this, and you girls will know, like, in it, there's a murder with a stiletto. Literally, that's how you might kill someone with a shoe. And this cover that they proposed to me had a court shoe on it. And
I missed the point.
I cut a court shoe, and like I just went, "Are you mad? Like, like who gets battered to death with a court shoe?" And they said to me, "Well, covers are really not that important." And at that point, I was like, "Right, well, this is over." And so once again, difficult Melanie Blake left. They offered me another contract. Everybody said I was mad, and couldn't understand it. Like, they're like, "God, you're leaving HarperCollins. It's global." I was like, "Yeah, but it's not working for me." It's like, I've had this amazing experience at Head of Zeus. Meanwhile, Head of Zeus has been bought and basically now no longer exists. The two of those are not a coincidence. That's to make sure that Head of Zeus don't make another Melanie Blake. So therefore, that's what happens. It's all very, very, very intricate, the way publishing is. And so then I basically became unpublishable again, even though Guilty Women was another Sunday Times bestseller and another international hit. But it wasn't HarperCollins that did that. It was me, like literally, like with my own PR team, because they didn't do any PR, literally, which we discovered, so we had to do it ourselves. It was truly so you hear all these myths of, like, the biggest ones are the dreams, and actually sometimes the biggest publishers can be your worst nightmare, because you can get lost in the system, and you just don't become a priority. And again, it was the same thing. Editors changed. The editors changed. You got moved on to somebody else. You're at the mercy of an editor. So when it came to this book that you have just said how much you love that cover, Vengeful Women, um, And let's describe it for those at home. So tell me what's on the cover that's special.
It's the red pages that I love. It's all
There,
black and red, isn't it? And it's just
yeah. So
really
so sprayed, so sprayed edges,
yeah.
which
And the
te
bookmark as well, the built-in bookmark.
built-in
Love that.
bookmark. Yeah,
Yeah,
and on the front cover, oh, have you noticed all the raised fonts
Yeah.
and the different and the blood and the roundel and
yeah.
all of that costs money.
Yeah, it looks
Right.
expensive, and
It
that's what's
is,
fun.
and it takes a week for those books to dry, right? So literally, so Head of Zeus made that commitment, and that is what Ruthless Women look like. Guilty Women look like a bargain basement bin book, which is my book, and I'm allowed to say it. And basically, it was an insult. The paper was cheap. I did manage to get a stiletto on the front, but it was cheap. The if you go online, you'll find there are there are literally forums, NetGalley, Goodreads, and stuff saying the proofreading on this book they should be shot. The proofreading was horrific. The book was a disgrace, literally. They had put it through some sort of autocorrect. Um, there's one specific phrase I will use to tell you how bad it is. It doesn't stop your enjoyment of the book. You can still read the book and absolutely love it, but you'd be blind not to see what's wrong. Um, Here's an example of how bad it got. Somebody's partner has died, and there's a really significant scene. And in this hardback book, it says he didn't know how to feel. His emotions were just everywhere. He'd never been a window before. Yeah,
Yeah.
window, window, right? That went to print. And about another 50 other mistakes like that that were not in my approved copy. So they must have used some sort of software that corrupted it. So basically, so when it went to print and we got all these notes back, like we went to them, and this is part of the reason why I left. And we were like, "This is what have you done?" And it was ages were changing all over the place and stuff. And my character's ages are older, so it's really important. I mean, to be honest, it's a horror story, isn't it? Listening to that, and you
Yeah.
would not believe that that could happen, but like. Everything I'm telling you there is fact. You can go and find that for yourself. It is in that book. He had never been a window. Like, and it's in the contract that they will give you a first class service, that they will treat you whatever. And it's breach of contract. That's not how you treat an author. And basically the whole book has many things in it that are wrong, which the audience that love that book were willing to ignore and didn't slag me off and slagged off HarperCollins all over the internet for it. And so therefore HarperCollins said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll fix it for the paperback." And they never changed a thing. They sent it to print twice like that. And that was why I left. So it also had cheap paper. The pages were falling out and it didn't have a glossy cover. And I said to myself, because I was very lucky to make a lot of money from Ruthless Women because it was a global international smash. Uh, I think it sold something like 400,000 copies in Korea, the good part of Korea, like not the bad part. It sold like 200,000 copies in America. It was in Romania, massive in Hungary, Czechoslovakia, um, uh, Estonia. I mean, it was everywhere. Literally, that book was everywhere, and it has some real on my bookshelf. I've got all the international covers, and some countries they change your name, and so in some places I'm Melanie Blake and so it's just really great fun to see. But like that book was massive, and it made a lot of money. So I was able to basically go, do you know what? I'm leaving. I'm going to do this myself. And because my readers had been so loyal to me, because I am dyslexic and I am working class, and I do come from from a background that really says that I shouldn't be successful, considering that I don't write a genre that is particularly easy. In fact, there was a review just when Jilly Cooper died, which I was actually dreading. And it was, did you know there's a professor that I think it's at Oxford or Cambridge, but one of the big posh ones, that's job. It was on the Jeremy Vine show, this, which has 8 million less listeners, and they'd invited about several people of us on to talk about Jilly Cooper. And I was about number 5 down the list, but they hadn't announced who was on the show. And number 3 was this Oxford, like, Don. I don't know if they call ladies Don, but like a late whatever, the main lecturer. And Jeremy Vine says to her, "So, what is your job?" And she goes, "My job is literally to study the Bonkbuster and teach." And to this and teach the element of female storytelling and the subculture of the Bonkbuster, which is the main part of the with the syllabus, that like the context of what they teach per year. And she said because Bonkbusters are so underrated and are so snubbed with their noses, their authors become more famous than the books. And even the books, even with the famous authors, like Jackie Collins wouldn't get a review in like the Times. She would be on the cover of the Times, but she wouldn't get a review in the cultural section. Same with Jilly, and same with me. They put me on the front cover of the Times. I was in the Sunday Times chart, but I wasn't in the review section. There's a real snobbery about it. Anyway, so she said, this genre is incredibly difficult to write. It is one of the hardest ones to write of all. And not many people can ever crack it. And so I was thinking, oh God, so literally it's coming my way. And this she's going to say something bad. And she said, and now, of course, we've lost Jilly. I thought she was going to go, it's over. And she said, but we have Melanie Blake. I couldn't believe it. So I was like, on the line. And he said, Melanie Blake is on the line. And she went, oh, hello, Melanie. And I was like, hi. And then she said, you are on my syllabus. I'm sure she said syllabus. That must have been the name. It's like, it's the list of what they teach. She said, because you truly you have that gift that they have. That is a very unique thing. We're not the best writers in the world, but all of us, alive and dead, all say that. All reviews say, in fact, there's some reviews for this book that say, is this going to win the Booker Prize? Absolutely not. Is it going to make you literally cancel all your plans for 72 hours and not be able to put it down? Absolutely yes. Like, so what Bonkbuster authors get described as brilliant storytellers.
Yeah.
And that's what we are. I think I specialize in storytelling and dialogue. So for me, it's about the dialogue. The way that my characters speak is really distinctive. So the cover costs more than the actual purchase price,
Oh, wow.
which nobody would do. But because I bought the rights back, I did a very limited edition run, which is still available. There's just probably about 1,000 copies left of that. And I did it as they call it a loss leader because I wanted it to be something special for the really hardcore fans. And each one's got like signed, and there's a kiss in a different place, and they're all unique. And it's something that because my fans and fans of these books, and if you've never heard of me and you're listening to this for the first time today, I really would urge you to try um, one of my books, because if you love them, you will really love them, because the people who love them buy 3, 4, 5 copies to give to their friends. Because as you know, the books have got massive endings, which is where the great big finale is, and nobody ever guesses. the ending. So like so that they can't talk about it with their friends unless their friends have bought it. So I tend to have super fans. So and I've got massive book clubs where they all bulk buy like literally like 50 copies in advance. And the picture on my Twitter is also a massive book club. So I'm still a cult author, even though I'm international. I'm cult because the people that buy my books are obsessive about them. They write to me. I get, I mean, I never thought this would happen. This is genuinely, I don't think I've ever actually spoken about this, but I get fan mail, real fan mail, written, handwritten fan mail, presents. I get gifts sent from all over the world. I mean, and I've dealt with celebrities for years, so I know that this happens, but I don't think of myself in that way. And you get all these like requests, you get like magazines sent to you for you to sign some back, and that is weird.
Yeah, I
Like
bet.
it's really weird because that's like one of the characters in the book, and I just don't think of myself like that. Like because I've managed so many famous women in my head, Melanie Blake is one of the clients.
Yeah.
So you're talking to me, Mel, like who is Melanie Blake, but when I switch into her mode, it's just like when I was dealing with, Patsy Kensit or whatever, and I'd be like, right, Patsy, get glam, head up, walk into the Oscars, it's time to go. Like I go, right, Melanie, get your pen out, time to write something shocking. And then I pop out of it. So it gets a lot of appreciation. And that book cover that you mentioned, literally, if you go online, my heart just burst with the love that it got. I mean, there were just the most amazing videos, people going, oh my God, look at this cover. Look at this beautiful cover. Look at this book. Look at the care that's gone into this. And that's what mattered to me. I really cared because I've got right in front of me Jilly Cooper's The Man Who Made Husband Jealous, and that book must be 30 years old. I've still got it. It's over there. I've got Jackie Collins' Rockstar over to the right. Over on the far left is Jacqueline Suzanne, Valley of the Dolls. People who love books, that love books, never let those books go, and they keep those books forever, and they are like a little piece of art. And I wanted to do that for this, and I'm really glad that I did. So I'm thrilled that you loved it and everybody else loved it too. So I'm proud of that.
Beautiful. Could you give some of our listeners advice about how to get into the market?
Yes, before we do that, do you mind me asking you, since I've mentioned the cover, what did you think of the book?
Oh, I love the book. I love the
Have you
book.
have you read all
In
three?
all, no, I'm halfway through because we get so
Oh,
much
okay.
food, but
Yeah.
it's such a wild ride. I absolutely love it. I'm
And
having it in
do
the
you,
bath. I love
and
it.
exactly, but do you find that literally you have to turn the page over
Oh, yeah.
every time? Yeah. And do you love, so again, if you're listening to us at home, my books come in a very unusual format. Have you noticed that they're split into four parts?
Yeah.
So essentially, I've written them as a television series inside the pages of a book.
Yeah.
It is like you're reading a TV series. I've never
That was my goal. So I actually created a genre that now is recognized that nobody had ever heard of, which is called the binge read.
Okay.
That's me. I created that. So in lockdown, the Thunder Girls that had only been 44 in the charts got a new life and went to number one. And basically, that's how I ended up on the Sunday Times. And then that led to me basically writing Ruthless Women, and it all changed. It's all about weird things happening. So, COVID closed my play, but then COVID put my original book back up to the top of the charts. And then I got to write another book that ended up being the book that changed my life. So, it's all goes around in circles. But
Mm.
basically, every single page, every line, every word means something. In this, and when you get to the end of the book, which when you do, like message me because we won't be on this Zoom then. but message me because you will never believe what's coming. Like
I've got
literally,
so many, I've got so many theories, but yeah.
yeah, you will never guess. And if you've read Ruthless or Guilty, um, nobody ever guesses the ending. Never, never been guessed. And the endings are spectacular. I did a big interview yesterday, where they were asking me to choose which was my favorite. And I said, literally, that's like Sophie's Choice because they've all got their own special things. But I had to split it between the ending of book one, which is a live episode where this is not a spoiler, but the book has become a huge crescendo, and the episode is basically they've gone live to the audience. It's a soap opera, and the audience are going to vote as to who lives and dies. Uh, but it's a lot more complicated than that. But basically, it's a massive, massive scene. It's cinematic, and that has also just been optioned for a television series. So you're going to see that all over the world, and that is really big stars. So I'm really excited about that. And they're all older women. So that one, but this one, Vengeful Women, I could never write anything as big as this ending. And literally, that's what the reviewers that have said it as well have gone. The ending of this book is like a blockbuster movie of 100 million budget. It has got everything and nothing that you expected. Because of course I knew it was the end
Oh,
because it was a trilogy. So and I just went for it. But it turns out it's not the end because it's now going to go on again and there's going to be a book four and Ruthless Men is already in the brewing.
oh, amazing.
That was going to be my next question, actually. What's happening next with you? But
Well, so much is happening. So basically, and this is all hot off the press, you actually are knowing it first, really. It's because it's not been announced. But so I have agreed to a lot of rights deals. Finally, if anyone wants to Google me, I have famously turned down millions of pounds, which I would have liked, um, because ageism is absolutely rampant with women,
Yep.
and it's disgusting. Like literally, it started from day one with the Thunder Girls. When I was 19, I was offered a publishing contract for that book. The women were in their 40s and 50s, and the idea was that they hadn't seen each other since they were for 30 years. So they were teenagers. Like they were split up at like 21, or so that would make them like 50, 51. And they were like, "Oh, it's brilliant, but we need to make them younger." I was like, "What do you mean make them younger? How can they have lived, loved, and lost, and had an entire life that's worth telling the story if they're not, at least 40 or 50?" Which to me is nothing, because the lead character in Ruthless Women, and also it is a Bonkbuster, so there's a lot of sex in there, and she has the most sex scenes, is 75. Right, literally, nobody's ever done that. She's the oldest leading character in that has a raunchy part in any book ever in history. Catherine Bell, wait till you meet her. Um, and and so I turned it down, and I lived in a bedsit. I didn't understand like these arguments with record labels and like soap bosses and whatever and stuff like. So an actress would go, "You're changing my character," and I'm just like, I'm leaving, and I'd say to the actress, "You're on 250 grand a year. It's like it's the main part in the show," and they would go, "But they're not writing her right. This is not right." It's like I'm doing a disservice to the character. And I genuinely, I'm not embarrassed because I was an agent. It was my job to do it. I didn't get it. And I was like, "But it's 250,000. Like, can't you just do the lines and
mm,
just go to work?" And she was like, "You don't get it. It's bigger than that. I played this part for 25 years. People care about her. People know her. I know her.
mm,
And what they're giving me is not right. And if I do this, I'm going to destroy the legacy of what I've done." which is how I ended up being so successful as a soap agent, because I did listen to them. And then what I would do is every 5 to 10 years, I would return an actress to a show when the show had learned its lesson to write for that actress. And I returned pretty much all the big ones, Kim Tate to Emmerdale, Beverly Callard to Coronation Street, like all the big ones, I did it. And then whenever they went back, they always had fantastic writing as it was. But the point was, it was a very precious element that I didn't get. Same with artists. I knew Siobhan from Bananarama, and she literally at the height of Shakespeare's sister, like just wouldn't do any more, and like basically like pulled the label and pulled it all and fought with her record label and stuff. And I knew her, but like, and I kind of couldn't get into it too deep, but she was just saying, like they just don't get it, they just don't get it. And I didn't get it still. I didn't get it. I was like, she was like, they're just altering this. And I was thinking, but you're having these massive mega hits, like it's huge. And she was like, it's not what I wrote. It's not what I wrote. So then when I wrote my books and people started changing them, then I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. And I was like, oh my God, I get it. Literally, it's like these mean everything to me. Like they really do. And I think that's why the readers find them so engaging, because I put every bit of my heart and soul into those books and every bit of everything that I've seen. So Vengeful Women, you can read as a standalone. The whole series is set on a fading soap opera, which has been around for 40 years. And obviously, they say write about what you know. So, in the first book, I wrote about uh, girl bands reuniting because I worked at Top of the Pops. So that's what my history was. And in this one, I worked on soap operas for 20 years. So I knew how soaps worked. So I also knew, and this was 5 years ago, that I kind of thought soaps were coming into a trouble and that they were going to be coming off the air. And I was right, because Neighbours has gone, Hollyoaks has been cut down to practically nothing. And I think we will see over the next couple of years, uh, one of Coronation Street and Emmerdale go. I don't think they'll both survive, and my money would be on Emmerdale surviving. There's a episode that will have gone out probably by the time this airs, which, if you've seen the promos for it, it's called Corrydale.
like the crossover between the two of them.
Yes, have you
Yeah.
seen the promos for it?
Yeah.
Well, so being Machiavellian, as would be in my books, that's being promoted as an extravaganza. Now, that's not what's happening. What's really happening there, in my opinion, not fact, but I'm sure I'm right, is they're looking at which characters fit into which shows that would make one show viable, because that network is being sold. So the first thing they do is they want to get rid of a soap because they're so expensive. And my books are set on a show that is being axed. So that's the point. The five women that work on the show is set on an idyllic island in between Jersey and Paris. It's called St. Augustine's Cove, which was another lesson that I learned from Thunder Girls. A journalist said to me, don't write a book that's set just in London. If you want an international success, write a book that's somewhere that could be anywhere. And I took that on board and I wrote it in this fictitious area. And that became one of the big selling points of the book, because you could get to London in an hour by helicopter. You'd get to Paris, which they do, by boat in an hour. And it becomes an international destination. So when it's retold or relived, it could be Malibu to Miami or anywhere. It could be anywhere. And basically, if you're in the show Falcon Bay, you live on the island. So your whole life revolves around this island. And basically, the women of Falcon Bay will do anything to keep the show on the air, because Jake Monroe, who is the controller of the network, is an absolute rat bag from hell, and that's being polite. Um, and he wants to kill it so that he can basically do his own thing with young bikini babes and whatever. And he's like 50 anyway himself, so it's pathetic. Um, so basically the women will do anything to keep the show alive, including kill. So it's full of murder, it's full of mystery, it's full of setups, it's full of sex, it's full of tragedy. It's just a dramatic, blockbusting, bonk-busting page turner of a addictive escapism into this world where you genuinely do think you're in their world. And when I write those books, I always describe it as like being in Ghost and being Whoopi Goldberg as Oda Mae Brown, because they just take over. I have no control over it at all. The characters dictate what comes out, and I'm just the medium. So that's why I think they're so realistic.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think you could have described those books any better there. And I think if anybody hasn't read it yet, they are definitely going to want to read them after this podcast episode. And we could sit here and talk to you absolutely all day long, because your storytelling, like you say, in the books and in real life, brilliant. And we could sit here and listen to you all day. But that does bring us to the end of this episode. So thank you so much, Melanie,
Oh,
for
I'm so thrilled to have been on, and I hope my stories weren't too long. And if I've got just a few seconds to throw in what I was going to end on, which was that I now have my own publishing company.
yes.
So basically, so I now own all my own rights, and my company is called Piranha Publishing, and whoever's listening to this, can publish you, because basically
Yeah.
I'm now the boss. And that's the point. So basically, the full circle ticket here comes from being told I couldn't write, that I wouldn't be able to write, I'd never write a book, basically, that I'd only do a box in a factory, to then that I'd never sell in hardback, and that no one would read my books. And then basically, that I ended up being the success that I was, enough to buy all the rights back and start a company that basically is for people like me that the industry don't want. And that's what my legacy is going to be. That hopefully I'm going to open the doors for more people to have the lovely, wonderful opportunity to be invited on amazing podcasts like this, because nobody expected me to be here talking with you. I'm thrilled to be here talking to you. And that's probably why I've told you so much.
Oh, no, we've absolutely loved having you on, and your story is a very inspiring one, and I'm sure all of our listeners are going to take something away from it today, and hopefully be buying your book and looking you up on Google.
Oh, I'm on social media, so you can always come and tell me if you love it or you hate it. So I'm open. I'm open to both. I'm not precious.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been
Oh
amazing.
no, thank you so much. And I can't wait to listen to the rest of your series.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks so much, Melanie.
All right, take care.
Thanks for tuning into the Write Club. We hope you enjoyed this episode and feel inspired to keep writing. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at Writers Online, your go-to for writing tips, competitions, and exclusive updates. Plus, you'll never miss an episode of the Write Club. Until next time, happy writing.